Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch presents MLB Baseball. I am at the real _ G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube, and I'm joined by at A Brooks Bets. We're coming off an 0-2 best bet menage a trois, unfortunately, but we will keep it going because I think we were 4-0 to start the season in our first two episodes. So I guess we weren't going to go perfect forever. We're going to go through the, I guess, somewhat limited Major League Baseball card. A lot of games scheduled, but unfortunately, not a lot of either lined games because of starting pitchers that have changed or just not even having starting pitchers. But we'll get you some best bets end of show and try to improve on that 4-2 season record. At A Brooks Bets, how's the baseball season going for you?
Pretty good. I cut my grass for the first time here in upstate New York this afternoon, so the weather's getting warmer. The ball's going to start flying. You know, baseball's such a long sport. I try not to get over, start reading into things too much or this 2 weeks into the season. But there's StatCast data out on the 24 season now, so you can look to see what might be a fluke and what might not be, and a lot of new information coming in. So it's an exciting time in the baseball year. I think some trends starting to emerge, and time to bet with them or against them.
Agreed. So we're gonna go through. I'll start. We have a bunch of day games, as you mentioned before we got on here. I'll start in San Francisco, or I guess in Miami. San Francisco visiting Miami. We'll go to the National League first. 11:10 Central Time start, so just after noon Eastern Time. Like if you're in Syracuse, New York, for example. We have Keaton Wynn, I believe it is, for San Francisco, visiting Trevor Rogers. Looks like we have all lines are quoted courtesy of BetOnline Sportsbetting.ag, sister sites that are offering free money if you sign up first time deposit. Go check the podcast descriptions on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It's huge for the search rankings. And if you say something baseball related, I'll have at A Brooks Bets read it. But for this game, we got San Francisco minus 123 favorite on the road. Over under here is 8.5. Juiced more to the over than to the under.
It's minus 123. I'd have here that the Marlins would be a bigger underdog than that. They have obviously not started the season very well. They are 3-14 as we record this. They're probably underachieving a little bit. You know, I don't think they're going to be the worst team in Major League history, but they're not very good. The Giants don't match up against Trevor Rogers very well historically. So I would hope this line is higher, so I probably won't bet it. But I'm going to lean Marlins if they're the underdog. I think they're underachieving, and the market is not reflecting that as much as I thought they would and hoped they would. But I'd lean Marlins if I had to pick one.
Okay, so Miami undervalued according to A Brooks Bets.
Right.
I think Trevor Rogers, I mean, a few seasons ago in our fantasy league, I definitely had him on my team and looked like he was going to be the next Cy Young potential before probably getting Tommy John surgery. I don't think he got Tommy John, but he had a shoulder issue, if I remember correctly, and he's basically been on a long, long road to recovery, and it hasn't really happened yet. He had a decent start last time out against the Braves, but ultimately was still not perfect. Obviously, he is Trevor Rogers, but it does feel like, I mean, the Giants are, according to the odds makers, it seems like they're getting a fair amount of respect in most games they play. I feel like that's reflected here on the road, getaway day, going probably back to the West Coast of some sort. I would think that it puts the Miami Marlins in a really good position to potentially have maybe I guess face a lineup that's pretty significantly rotated with a bunch of bench guys getting some minutes or some at bats. So I'd watch out for that, and I think the home dog's the only way I would lean, especially after watching. I mean, even Edward Cabrera was an underdog at home to San Francisco, so clearly the market thinks San Francisco is a lot better than Miami. Maybe that awful start, worst team in baseball type start, if it continued the rest of the season. But I think I'm with you. I don't know that Miami's a playoff team like they somehow found a way into last season, even if half the teams make the league, make the playoffs in each league. But that'll, I think, probably put me on the same side with you, Miami, there for me. Next game we got is Michael King in San Diego visiting Milwaukee. That has no starter announced for Milwaukee. I don't even think that they've mentioned on the broadcast as I was watching it before we turned on this podcast tonight. Any thoughts on Michael King and his start to the season? I know he's not striking out a ton of batters.
Yeah, that was his MO in New York. He missed bats. He's maybe not quite doing that. I see a 4.19 ERA. That's middle of the road pitching, I think. The Brewers at home, I think in general, I picked them to win the division. So without knowing too much about who they're going to put on the mound, maybe bullpen game, maybe spot starter. I don't know. Did you mention a line in this one? Do we have one yet?
No line, no line. Just figured we get thoughts on Michael
If,
King and then
if
move
you give
on.
me any plus money for the Brewers, I'll probably bet it. But, even money or better.
Yeah, I mean, Wade Miley left with an injury earlier tonight, so and probably was not going to go that deep in the game anyway. Abner Uribe, who I thought was going to close, he pitched in the fourth, so not a great sign for. If I don't think many teams are bringing their closer in the fourth inning when they're trailing 4-1. So we'll see what the Milwaukee lineup and bullpen and all that sort of stuff looks like tomorrow. Pittsburgh visits New York Mets for the next game on our list. We have Bailey Falter at Luis Severino. Currently the Mets and Severino minus 137 favorite at home, totals 8.5, juiced to the under. Bailey Falter had one good start this year, at least. Luis Severino has had a couple, I think. Bailey Falter and Pittsburgh, they were off to a great start, but I think I'm seeing some cracks in the foundation.
Yeah, I saw what you saw. I saw some good pitching from both of them. 8.5 is a pretty middle of the road line in Major League Baseball, but I'm going to lean under. I know the juice is leaning that way too, but I like the bullpens in both for both teams. Roldis Chapman and David Bednar are not slouches. Obviously, Edwin Diaz seems to be back for the Mets.
Oh yeah.
They're all setup guys too. So, yeah, I would lean under in this game. Maybe they all want to get away. The umpire has a big strike zone, and wants to go to dinner. So I'll lean under.
Yeah, getaway day there too is a 12:10 Central Time start, so 1:10 Eastern. I think you're right. The Mets with Rayleigh to Ottavino to Edwin Diaz looks pretty tough. I mean, I bet Pittsburgh last night, 3-0 lead into the sixth inning, and by the time they fell behind, gave a bunch of runs, I knew it was pretty much over at that point. And I got to say, Pittsburgh seems like they're pretty young, pretty easy to take advantage of, and I've not had a great time backing them so far this season, despite their great start. Moving next to Chavez Ravine, and we have Jake Irvin starting for the Washington Nationals, and undecided pitching for the Dodgers. Probably a bullpen game. Probably see the Dodgers a minus 250 favorite or something like that. Do you have any? I don't think there's a lot to cover with this one, especially not the Nationals. Do you take anything away from the Dodgers losing 5 of 6 or something like that heading into tonight's game?
No, other than I have a little bit of a long. I'll tell you about my big long shot for the whole season. I parlayed every division winner, and every division winner is leading currently now, except for in the NL West. This is obviously the make or break part. I picked the Diamondbacks to beat the Dodgers in the NL West. Now, obviously, that was a plus 1,000 bet, 10-1 to start the year. They're not quite there. They're 2 games back. I'm hoping there's some cracks in the armor for the Dodgers. Don't really think there are. There's no reason to believe they are. They're 11-8. They play late tonight, and then early tomorrow. So I don't know. I don't think it's very profitable betting somebody minus 250 or minus 210 or anything like that. So, you give me the Nationals plus 200, I might sprinkle, but I'm not excited about this game.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, I feel like the Arizona Diamondbacks blowing a save last night on a wild pitch with a runner on second base was probably not a great step in the direction for your NL West division bet. But you never know. I mean, I hope you'll think of me when you own that island after that bet ends up cashing.
Still 30 grand, so it's out there.
You never know.
Money, but it's
Hey, I mean, it doesn't. If it wins, it's probably might be the best bet you ever won in your life. So
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
forward for one of those, or just to win one bet, maybe. Move next to the desert and those Arizona Diamondbacks. We got Jordan Wicks and the Chicago Cubs, which should be probably a 50-50 split, if not 75-25 Arizona Diamondbacks, based on that game I was watching last night. Brandon Pfaadt starting for Arizona. I don't know what to do with him, really. Huge strikeout numbers in the minors, but hasn't really delivered at the major league level, though he somehow got a team to the World Series last year. Current number, Arizona minus 117 at Bet Online. Total is 9.5, split juice both ways. I guess my curiosity, Chicago somehow won that game last night with no bullpen, basically just throwing out call-ups in extra innings, and somehow that was enough. I think that I trust Chicago's bullpen more than Arizona's. Do you have any interest in the Cubs here, though it is certainly a getaway day for them, coming off a series in Seattle, then going to Arizona? I imagine they're probably heading back home.
No, Not really, not with Wicks on the mound. He has serious control issues. I think if you put the Diamondbacks on base, they made it to the World Series. They've got some young hitters, some speed. Carroll, obviously. I don't think that Wicks is a guy that is going to be in the Chicago rotation for very long if they want to compete. He might be more of a bullpen guy. I mean, crazy. Like strike percentage, I think is like 35%. Like he's not really hitting the zone. So I'm going to take the D-backs as a short dog here, minus 117, 118.
Short favorite. Yep. So I think I'm probably looking to be against Brandon Pfaadt, at least until he shows that he's able or capable at this level. And I don't really know what to make. I mean, Arizona making the World Series last year was so incredible that I don't know. Maybe there's some value potentially going against them this year because I think the market will say, "Oh, this team made it to the World Series last year." But they haven't really gotten a ton of respect in this series with Chicago. I thought they should have been a way bigger favorite last night when Chicago had basically no bullpen and Merrill Kelly starting for Arizona, but that didn't work out so well. So we'll see about this game. Moving next and the last one in the NL for Wednesday, the 17th of April, 2024. We have Ryan Feltner and the Colorado Rockies. They are visiting Philadelphia and Christopher Sanchez. Currently, the Phillies minus 210 favorite at home, totals 8.5. Juice very heavily to under here, so might see an 8 before this first pitch is thrown. Feltner's got some good strikeouts upside. Christopher Sanchez is supposed to have strikeout upside, but I don't think we've really seen that yet. Are you a believer in Christopher Sanchez? I mean, he's got a pretty good matchup here.
Yes, he has a great matchup. The Rockies are not a good team, but I like Feltner better than Sanchez. Baseball's a game of pitching. I think that good pitching beats good hitting. I like what I've seen from Feltner so far. I'm going to do the Rockies bullpen is atrocious, so I'm going to go first five Rockies. Rockies first five, which is about plus 180.
Nice. There's also the option of potentially going a +1, plus a half of a run in that first five, I think is usually offered. Run lines for the game totals are usually, or full games are usually 1.5. Those are available to you if you'd like them. I just don't have them on my screen right now, so feel free to throw them in whenever you feel necessary. Moving next to Minnesota, first game in the American League, Minnesota visiting Baltimore. This is a 12:05 Central Time start, so 1:05 Eastern. Looks like Pablo Lopez at Tyler Wells, though now starting to get flashes of undecided for Baltimore. Wells hasn't gotten a lot of love this year, got hit pretty hard by the Brewers on Friday. Pablo Lopez, I don't know what to say about him at this point in the season. He's about as consistent as the weather, it seems to me. Baltimore number I'm seeing is minus 105 both ways. So about a pick 'em, essentially, if you could give that out in baseball terms. Totals 8.5, juice pretty heavily to under in a pretty big under park.
Yeah, Pablo Lopez is their ace. So if the Twins are going to win games, he's going to have to be better. Like you said, he has flashes. Obviously, he pitched pretty well last year overall. But I'll take the Twins in this one if it's a pick 'em. I think Pablo Lopez is their horse. I think that they come out and try to back him. I know there's I wonder if there's any truth to it, but it seems like aces don't get as much run support, especially like really good ones. Their had that problem in the past and whatever. Maybe they in these day games, it's tough. I encourage everybody to maybe sleep on these lines, check lineups in the morning, because if they're not playing, a couple of the studs or whatever on the offensive side, you might want to think differently. Trying to get them an extra 24 hours of rest. But Pablo Lopez is the ace. I think in a pick'em game with the Twins are, I think, maybe a playoff team, borderline at least. Like you said, half the league makes the playoffs now. I'll take Pablo Lopez and the Twins in a pick'em.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the status of Carlos Correa. I think he's missed a couple games recently, but Byron Buxton is usually just one step away from the IL as well. So you probably definitely want to wait for lineups. I would suggest doing that as well, though it's kind of been burning me this week. It's a lot of these underdogs overnight have been closing favorites, and I've been swallowing the juice and not very happy about it. In terms of the Baltimore bullpen, or just bullpens in general, I don't really trust Minnesota's. They're still trying to fill in for Juan Duran and his injury. I think oblique. We'll see when he comes back, but they had a really bad lone save against Detroit. The problem is I don't really trust Baltimore's. I feel like ever since Bautista went down, Yennier Cano has not been as good. And I don't know. I mean, Craig Kimbrell, I guess, has started off the year well and had a pretty good year last year, but still seems like one of those arms that I don't really trust as much. He's not really throwing 99 anymore. As I'm wearing an Orioles shirt today, nice Kevin Gausman t-shirt giveaway when I went to the park then. Any free baseball t-shirts I will try to wear on this podcast. I'm not really buying them very often. What's your take on the Baltimore Orioles bullpen? Do you think it's going to be anywhere near as good as it was last year?
Fun fact, Craig Kimbrell is the exact same height as me, the exact same weight as me, and has the exact same birthday as me. Somehow he was blessed with that 99-mile-an-hour arm, and I was not. I missed that genetic lottery, I guess, or maybe millions of dollars in pitching training as an 8-year-old. I don't know, but he's got that dangly arm. He's out there. I always get jealous of him out there saying, that could be me. We got $100 million in earnings. He is really high up on the career saves leader. I even saw a stat where he has more strikeouts in the ninth inning than any pitcher has in any inning ever. So he is on the ninth as far as strikeouts go. Chapman is up there in the ninth. Nolan Ryan has the first and second inning leads in these strikeouts per inning. But obviously, Kimbrell is old now, like me, because he's exactly like me. I look at him and yeah, I don't think Cano, that was a flash, maybe not a flash in the pan, but he got some skyrocketed to stardom kind of last year. What's Batista's nickname? The Mountain, right?
Yeah.
He's out. So he was obviously a big part of their bullpen, just like you mentioned. I'm not like super high on the Orioles bullpen. Kimbrell's definitely bound to blow up. He does from time to time. But you asked me about the Orioles bullpen, and I just think that could be me.
Well, I like your diatribe. Instead of having $100 million though, because you'd probably still be pitching if you were Craig Kimbrell, you wouldn't be able to do gambling podcasts on the Major League Baseball
Right.
Betting the Pitch podcast network. So I consider yourself lucky. We'll move next to Texas at Detroit. Dane Dunning is starting, not Jack Leiter. That'll be Thursday. Dane Dunning at Tarek Skubal. I've watched very intently the two Texas-Detroit games this week. I don't know why they played a day game today and are playing another day game on Wednesday. Really bizarre. Maybe it was a holiday in Detroit that I wasn't aware of or something like that. It's been a holiday for, I don't know, any sort of hitting in this series. I think it was 1-0 yesterday and seeing 4-2 Detroit today, 1-0 Texas on Monday and 4-2 Detroit on Tuesday. And honestly, it felt like 6 runs were miracles every run that crossed the plate. It's not really reflecting the total from what I'm seeing right now. We have Tarek Skubal minus 143 favorite, which is pretty significant considering Detroit was a really small favorite and an underdog today, small favorite on Monday. Total is 7.5, juiced very heavily to under, so it might fall to 7. That's still a really valuable push option with two teams that aren't hitting the ball. Really, Texas missing a lot of their players from that World Series run due to injury.
Yeah, from 1-2, Detroit's probably one of the best pitchers park. I think we've mentioned that before. And it is the only game that I researched that is affected by the weather. The wind is blowing in from center at 20 miles an hour. So that helps the under. I also see the 7.5. I would lean under for sure before anything. But in a game that is this close, it's kind of like a low total in college basketball. It's like there's a little bit more variance on who might win the game. The Rangers are the better team. Obviously, Skubal's been great. Probably take the Rangers if I'm going to get plus 120 or plus 110 to do it.
Yeah, Rangers plus 131 currently at Bet Online. So
Yeah.
you're getting even more than you'd look for. I think I want the Rangers side here. I love Tarek Skubal, and I don't really want to go against him. This is like the biggest price he's had all year. Was a much smaller underdog, or excuse me, much smaller favorite at home to the Twins and Pablo Lopez on Friday last week. I'm kind of surprised his number is as big as it is. Dane Dunning continues to get no respect and is I think a quality pitcher at this point. Keeps his team in games at minimum. We saw Corey Seager get rested on Monday. I feel like he's been kind of either taking, it's almost like they're using kid gloves with him. They're resting him a lot so far this season. Not great for fantasy ownership. Like I have him on one team, very disappointed every time I have to find some random shortstop to fill in for him. But hopefully that's going to keep him healthy for longer stretches this year. I imagine that's probably a plan in place, though I know there were some, I guess, rumors he's going to miss or at least start the season on the injured list. I think under's a great idea, like first 5 under, full game under. It doesn't hurt on that early start as well. Moving next to Kansas City visiting the Chicago White Sox, a makeup, I think, for a rain out today. We got Brady Singer on the road at some guy named Jay Cannon. Not sure if you got anything on him, but it looks like the Royals minus 185 favorites on the road. Yes, the Kansas City Royals. Those Kansas City Royals, nearly a $2 favorite away from home. And total is 8.5, juice all the way to over.
The Royals had the hot start that the Guardians had by playing the A's um, and others. But they both are kind of tied in the top now in run differential at like plus 28 and plus 29. The Guardians and the Royals. I think probably they both played the White Sox too. The White Sox are very bad
Agreed.
and hurt, both. So, and I mean, I see the price on the Royals. I kind of understand it. I guess this game, in my mind, is maybe priced correctly, so I probably won't bet it. I don't see value on either side, but the Royals should win the game. Brady Singer's got a less than 1 ERA so far. Like he's been, he's a prospect and he's been around a little bit now. Maybe he's figuring something out. Obviously, Reagan's is figuring it out too. So the Royals might be here to stay. And the White Sox never were, never will be this year. So I imagine the Royals will win the game. I'm not a money line or a run line guy, but I might eyeball that one here.
Yeah, and on the road to get 9 at bats for the road team, at least if they're going to win that game. So that does help you for increasing that lead late. I feel like I'm replacing the Oakland Athletics with the Chicago White Sox on the do not bet list. Like you might have some chick in your phone, not A. Brooks bets because he's married, but like single guys like myself, you might have had a bad experience with a woman. You change your name in your phone to do not text. I think you might do not bet every time I look at the White Sox the rest of the season. At least I probably should change that in dog days September. They're probably going to be like a plus 400 favorite at some point. Maybe not, but it's possible. Who knows? We'll move next to the New York Yankees visiting the Toronto Blue Jays. Marcus Stroman, former Blue Jay, if I remember correctly, at Kevin Gausman, who has looked really all over the place so far to start this season, to the point where the New York Yankees and Marcus Stroman is actually a favorite in Toronto. Marcus Stroman minus 108 to Kevin Gausman's minus 102 at home in Toronto. Totals 8.5, juiced very heavily to under. Do you think, considering I'm wearing a legitimate Kevin Gausman, I don't know if you can see that jersey T-shirt right now, jersey, whatever it is. My mic's in the way. But regardless, probably not worth it for the people. But I mean, you do have the ability to watch us on video if you really want to see our faces for radio on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube. Please leave a 5-star review, and I'll probably only say that 4 more times in this podcast. But what's going to happen with Kevin Gausman? Is he finished at A. Brooks Bets?
These two pitchers have extreme opposite profiles. Like you said, even this year, Gausman's still missing bats, but he's allowing tons of hard contact. I know there was a big bugaboo about his velocity. It was kind of normal, maybe a mile or two down. In his first start, it was like 4 or 5 miles down in his second start, and then it rebounded in his third start a little bit, which I guess is kind of consistent with years past for him. So maybe he takes a while to round into form and to get his feel going. It just takes a little longer to ramp up than most other. He's almost ace category, right? Like he's expected to strike out 200 guys this year. Stroman, on the other hand, just pitches to contact. He doesn't strike out anybody, and he's doing okay. He's had better results than Gausman so far, certainly more consistent. The Yankees, I fear, might run away with that division. They are seemingly in it this year. They're going to be buyers at the deadline. Obviously, that doesn't do anything for tomorrow, but I'm going to the Yankees right now. I think they're dogs, right? Is the line out there? The Yankees are dogs against Gausman. I mean, I'll take that predictability.
So while recording this, a nice part is we do have dynamic lines that move around. Currently, New York minus 108, Kevin Gausman in Toronto minus 102. So, I mean, it's pretty much pick 'em, but it's news to me. I look at which team is more expensive to bet. I call that the favorite. I think most would as well. And it's probably going to move around. I would expect it fluctuates based on who's in the lineup. We saw Judge play the first 2 games. Stanton took Monday off, so potentially one of those is out of the lineup on Wednesday, and that might change things a little bit. But we know the Yankees are the most popular team in baseball, get the most hits when you put them on a tweet. I've learned that. So they're probably going to get bet. So I'll probably wait and just hold my nose and hope Kevin Gausman has figured out his velocity issue. We'll move next to the Trop at A. Brooks Bet's favorite ballpark. We got the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and Reed Detmers visiting Zach Littell and a fair amount of Tampa Bay Rays bullpen. Looks like the Rays are minus 120 favorite at home. Over-under is 8. And I feel like this is a pretty similar number to what Reed Detmers was getting in Boston, and he threw really well. Also dominated the Red Sox in Anaheim. I feel like Reed Detmers might be delivering on those high prospect expectations. I'm really not as tempted to back the Angels this far away from home, where I feel like they are still not a very good team, but Mike Trout's still in the lineup and hitting a bunch of home runs right now.
Yeah, he is. He's leading the league in homers. Shocker in April. He's fantastic. Still probably one of the best hitters in the world. I mean, he is definitely one of the best hitters. Might be the best. If it wasn't Yordan Alvarez has something to say about it. But the I like the Angels here, not for any reason that the ownership or managing of the team has done lately. Obviously, it's not because of Anthony Rendon, who actually scored on a Mike Trout home run yesterday for the first time ever. Like, that's kind of wild. He hits ahead of Mike Trout, and now Taylor Ward's kind of taking that. He's, I think, in the top 5 in the league in runs. Logan O'Hoppe is a nice young catcher who's profiling well with the bat, and he's getting a lot of playing time. I like the Angels here if you're going to give me money to take them. Like I said, yeah, Reed Detmers, he threw a no-hitter last year. I agree. He might be delivering on his promise. He's obviously got a really high ceiling, I think, on a day-to-day basis, maybe even season-long. This guy from left side can I think, really deal. I like the Angels in this one quite a bit.
I think I even saw Reed Detmers last year in person for the Angels, almost throw a no-hitter against the eventual World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm a believer. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to want to back the Angels. I feel like I've kept myself solvent by betting against them over years and years and years. Here's this. I'll give you on April 16th. I'll let you decide. Are you taking home run champion Mike Trout or the field?
The field. I don't think he plays more than 130 games, so it's hard to
130.
Who's gonna 100? I mean, if he plays 100, what was it? I guess it was 2 years ago. He hit 41 home runs in 122 games, I think. So the dude has a prodigious power. He's still in the 95th percentile of sprint speed. He's 32 years old. I mean, this guy is a world-class athlete. If he can stay on the field, obviously, but that's just been a real problem for him over the last 5 years or so. I'm taking Matt Olson or somebody who's been, showing they can stay on the field. The durability is there. Mookie Betts has power now. I mean, the Dodgers out there are wild. Even Ohtani is a rep to steal that crown from Mike Trout. But
yeah, now that Ohtani,
Chicago, who's he tied for in the league? He's hit 6 straight home runs for the Cubs. I mean, or again, a home run in 6 straight games.
Baby, Michael Busch,
a 6-pack of Busch.
Yeah,
back to the Angels. Yeah, I like the way they're on now. Like, when Mike Trout is healthy and in the lineup, they are a different team. He makes a difference.
I agree. That wasn't as serious. I appreciate your taking that seriously. It was more of I would expect you to say field. You did say field. And then you said, I don't think Mike Trout's going to play 130 games. And I was going to say over the next 2 seasons or 3 seasons or what. But you mentioned a lot, and I think Matt Olson might be the opposite of Mike Trout. He literally plays every day, and it's incredible to me. So we got about 10 minutes left in this episode. So thank you for tuning in. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. If you're not subscribed on the YouTube channel at @real_G Warner, if you're not subscribed or following or leaving 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do so. We got a few games left, and then we'll get to best bets. Last game in the American League, we got Cleveland, the Guardians at Boston. Tanner Houck starting for the Red Sox. Looks like Blake Lively pitching for the Cleveland Guardians. Houck a -140 favorite. Total is 9. Choose very heavily to over. We might see this hit 9.5 before the night is through, or before this game is I guess first pitch is thrown. Tanner Houck so far this year delivering on those expectations from a couple seasons ago, huh?
Maybe it might be full gold though. He has a 2.04 ERA and a 4.43 expected ERA. So yeah, I know the Red Sox defense doesn't do anybody any favors. Rafael is a fantastic defender, but he can't play center, right, and short at the same time. So with Trevor Story out, he was the only plus defensive infielder, and now he's gone for the year. Shocker. Another Red Sox big contract that's down for injury. But I'm going to go Guardians in this one. This is a proof that there's no bias on this podcast, even though I'm a Red Sox fan. You give me the Guardians as underdogs, I'm going to take it against the Red Sox and the overachieving Tanner Houck. I've seen this before. Houck does have those expectations. He can be good. He was in the bullpen for a while. He might even try to be a closer for a second. He's just kind of been all over. He's had some good results so far this year, but I don't expect those will happen every time out.
Certainly looks like a regression candidate based on those stats. I like him as a pitcher in general, but I do think his defense is going to be a big problem. And I think the Red Sox are a team that we're looking to bet against, at least until they're priced like they are not a playoff contender. Moving to interleague, we have Atlanta visiting Houston. Max Fried at JP France. I'm kind of surprised JP France is still in the rotation, but I guess Houston is still that injured. It sounds like Justin Verlander is returning this weekend. Atlanta minus 143 favorite on the road. Total is 9.5, juiced all the way to under. Do you see, I guess, your thoughts on Houston? Slow start to start the year, second straight season, ended up getting it all together and nearly making the World Series last season. What do you think about the Houston Astros in general? And then we'll get to this game.
Fried hasn't been completely stellar to start the year either. JP France, I agree, is not a guy that's probably going to stick around in that championship rotation for very long. Jordan Alvarez, actually, I mean, I was looking up some StatCast numbers with the new batch of data that comes in for the first 3 weeks of the season, and he's the best split-wise. He's the best expected hitter against lefties, even, and he's a lefty batter. Fried is a lefty, so I was wondering if that matchup might send me away. You know, Alvarez, there's only a handful of guys in the major leagues that I think actually impact games, you know, from a real betting perspective. When you're talking about full games, over and unders, and sides. But I'm going to take the Astros as an underdog here. I like them to maybe bounce Fried early. You know, he hasn't shown me some consistency yet. These guys sometimes take a while to figure it out. They are at home, correct?
They are at home, which they've struggled at home the last 2 seasons. At least to start this year, we're very small sample size, very early, but we're pretty bad last year, which is honestly better for if you're betting them or looking to bet them as an underdog, because most teams that are any sort of competent at home are favorites, and kind of goes the other way when they're away from home. I think I agree with you here. I don't know that I trust Max Fried as a big favorite, especially against a relatively competent team. I think my biggest interest is just seeing runs being scored. So I'll wait to see if this number hits 9 before first pitch at 2:10 Eastern time, 1:10 Houston time tomorrow on the third coast. And then I think, I mean, even that 9.5, I feel like it's still not too short, considering I think JP France could get hit hard as well.
I would lean over as well.
Over 2. Okay, so we'll move to St. Louis visiting Oakland. Steven Matz at Paul Blackburn. Looks like the Oakland Athletics at home are a plus 138 underdog. Over under is 8.
All right, so this is another great pitcher's park. This has the most foul territory in the big leagues for now. So they moved to Sacramento, which I don't know. Every time they seem to go to AAA stadiums, like when the Jays played in Buffalo during COVID, that was a bandbox. So that'll be interesting to see how that changes some A's lines. But they usually are priced very high on the totals because they can't hit, and they've got a big spacious park where you get an extra maybe out or two during the course of a game just based on foul balls, pop outs. Now, Blackburn's been a lot of the this season. He has pitched spectacularly. You said Steven Matz, right, on the other side?
Yeah,
he is really good. Well. Yeah, he's also pitched really well. He was a highly touted prospect in the Mets organizations, bounced around a little bit, got hurt. Now maybe is rebounding. Some of these guys get a little bit better, especially control pitchers. I feel like they kind of get in a groove and they get healthy and they seemingly fare well. I'm going to take the under 8.
Yeah, I like that too. I think that's Paul Blackburn's had some really good numbers for Oakland. He seems to be the only pitcher worth backing, at least all last season. We'll see if that changes this year, as the Oakland Athletics are off to a decent start, at least for athletics expectations.
The bear from College Game Day, no free shout outs, but the Chris Felica, he bet Blackburn 25-1 Cy Young. He seems to be pretty sharp. That's a long shot, obviously, but he sees something that he likes, so let's go Blackburn.
Yeah, I would have taken that bet. Wish he would have offered it to me. Last game with numbers, there is a Kansas City Chicago White Sox second game, but there's no number yet. We'll go Cincinnati Seattle. Andrew Abbott at Bryce Miller, former Aggie. Looks like Seattle minus 130 favorite at home. Total is 8, just a little bit to under. What are your thoughts on this one? Another getaway day game as everyone's heading back to their home parks, I assume.
Yeah, Andrew Abbott came on the scene last year. He pitched well for a while. He kind of faded down the stretch a little bit. He's probably in that Steven Matz range where like you kind of, I don't know, control lefty. Um, who's the pitcher for Seattle? Sorry,
It is Bryce Miller.
Bryce Miller. He's pitched well this year. Yeah, that's what I was looking up. I still think that this game more of a pick 'em toss up. I mean, it's baseball; anything can happen. So I'd take the money with the Reds.
All right, take that plus money with the Reds. We've reached the end of the show. Thank you all for tuning in. Whether you're on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a 5-star review. That's huge for us. And then I'll stop saying it. Just kidding. I probably will never stop. But it's time for our best bets. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. But I'll say that one more time when I do the last final minute. At A Brooks Bets, give us your best bet for this episode.
I'm fading Tarek Skubal. I am going Rangers on the road. The wind is blowing in. I think it's a very low scoring game. I think that in those situations, I'll take the better team, even though the Tigers have a better record so far this year. I don't think that will end that way. And I'm taking the Rangers as dogs on the road.
So this is the real_G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch MLB edition. You just heard at A Brooks Bets. He gave you the Texas Rangers a plus 131 underdog on the road at Detroit. This is a Wednesday, April 17th matchup. Make sure if you're not following us yet, hit subscribe on YouTube at the real_G Warner. Go on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave a 5-star review, throw some comments in there if you'd like, or at least that way you won't miss any episodes moving forward. There's also bonuses at multiple casinos if you are making a first-time deposit at BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag. So make sure you jump in there. For my best bet on this episode, I'm going to stay in that same game actually, and I'll go with that Texas-Detroit under 7.5 runs. So we got A Brooks Bets at A Brooks Bets on Twitter. He's going with Dane Dunning plus 131 on the road. I'm going to go with under 7.5. I just haven't seen any runs in this series so far. I don't think Detroit can hit very well, and Tarek Skubal's got an awesome arm. I think it's going to be a long way to try to find any sort of runs, a lot of wind blowing in, and that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you all next week, Tuesday night for Wednesday card, and we will see you all very soon. Feel free to send thoughts, comments, feedback, slide in our DMs, maybe naked pictures, whatever you want, and we'll talk to you all very, very soon.